the progenitors of Roman culture in myth. Well, I thought it was interesting that if you looked at the crop circle when it was made in August 14th, 2002, that those same motifs, Sirius, which would be the dog star, Mars, and the sun, all showed up on the horizon exactly at the same time. In fact, the sun and Mars were in a cult. They were actually conjuncting, and all these three bodies were rising on the horizon exactly at the same time from the latitude of where this crop circle was made at the time it was made. You might think that these are two coins from Rome, the Capitolian wolf and Romulus and Remus, but they're not. They're separated by almost 1,000 years. This one is from Rome. This one is from Crete. You can see this one guy suckling from a wolf or a dog. But underneath you can see here the word Chidon, a corruption of the name Sidon. Kappa, iota, delta. Read that. Down here it says Roma. This is from Crete, and the reason it's from Crete is because there's actually a Cydonia on Crete. And right here at the base of Mount Lucia, which is actually the mountain of the wolf. So when Europa was abducted, all this symbolic understanding of how the heavens were measured and the earth were measured and how it's connected to the earth, all that was given here in this mystery religion. That's where we get the idea of gnosis, meaning knowledge. There's gnosis. It all came from here via Europa and then finally up into the Greek culture. Now, in this heaven-earth matching system, this mirror of how heaven and earth are related, when you talk about the constellations anchored over that, this is from Crete's myth of Theseus dispatching the Minotaur. That looks an awful lot like Orion's placement next to Taurus. And that isn't without precedent because Taurus actually does exist in a 30-degree swath over this whole area, starting about Greece here, all over Crete, Cydonia, all the way out to this line. And that also explains why we have so much myth about Romulus and Remus, the twins, and the dog, because there's Rome right there, right on the edge. Rome is on the Tiber. The Tiber in Latin means the divider, and in fact, the Milky Way divides the zodiac in half. 6 on each side, right through there, right at their feet, and goes right up through there. And you have underneath Taurus, the Taurus Mountains in Turkey. I couldn't make this stuff up. It's just... And here you have Hathor, the cow-headed woman. You can also have Apis, the cow-headed man. It's just a version of Orion, this man, and Taurus, commemorating a position under heavens. Here's Virgo. And the point of this is to get the idea that she's usually depicted with wings. She's a heavenly symbol. She's got a branch in one hand and a sheaf of grain in the other. Here's another picture, same sort of configuration with wings. And look where Virgo lives. This is where she's oriented over the earth, in the heavens. Right over America. Perfectly. Right here. If you'd actually look at where the center part of that would be, and she's pointing to it. This is from a grimoire, illuminated, of course. Or she's pointing to her place on the earth. We commemorate this. This is the center of where Virgo would actually be if you looked at the 30-degree swath that she occupies on the earth. Here's our capital, right, wedged between Virginia and Maryland. These aren't names that are coming out of a hat. These are actually commemorating this. There are illuminated folks involved with the placement of this thing. Les Enfants, the guy who put this thing together, has demonstrated this sacred geometry, if you want to call it that, through the complex of Washington, D.C. over and over and over again. And look at this. Where we have our most influence and power in our country, the most powerful country. A lot of people want to argue about ever. I don't think so, but at least now we're pretty powerful, having split the atom and all. This is where we house all our war-making factions. Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, all in here. And then you look on Mars, the largest artificial structure on Mars, the symbol of the canine star, the Sidonian star, on the planet of the war god. How can you not see the connection? Continuing, it gets really in depth about how the ancients have actually commemorated how the heavens are placed over their countries. And here's Virgo over the earth, and there's Mexico, and this is Hydra, and Corvus pecking him. This is Mexico. You'd think that there'd be something there that would commemorate this idea, and you have it. It's their national symbol. Of course, they're using indigenous animals here. This is a hawk instead of a crow, and a rattlesnake, which is a reptile that is a lot more popular there. But if you actually look at some other things about Mexico, there's actually some very Martian things happening there too. It was said that the Aztec were told to move from an area up here down to this latitude, 19.47, by their war god, Huitzilopochtli. And he said to just set up camp here. Whenever you see that symbol of a snake in the talons of a hawk on a cactus. And so they searched for that sign until they found it, and it was right here in the middle of a swamp. And so they set to build their new nice city in the middle of this mosquito-infested swamp, and it took a long time. But why? They called themselves the Chichimec, the sons of the dog. So you're seeing these things repeated again, even across a whole ocean. You actually have this idea of the dog, Mars, measuring the earth, repeating the symbols. I think this is an incredible picture. This is a bilateral symmetry face. We have actually on this side a lion. It's kind of hard to see. I couldn't get a full-on frontal view. And this side's a human. And the archaeologists who found this in Tabasco, Mexico, have said that it actually is depicting the lion-human cult, and this is a person in the act of transforming. But you notice the attitude of the face here looking out into the heavens. It was the Olmec who supposedly carved this thing. And here we have the face on Mars. Notice the strange similarity here between the features that NASA would have you dismiss completely out of hand. I've gone to trouble to actually highlight just exactly how integral the lion eye here and the nose are incorporated into this ancient feature, which I believe has every hallmark of an artificial structure. This, of course, is almost two miles wide by almost a mile, 2 miles long by a mile wide. If you continue down to South America, you find Leo dominates the country. If you go to this little city here, Cusco in Peru, you'll find amazing artifacts. This is a megalithic site called Sacsayhuaman. There's a woman standing here in front of one of these great walls that were excavated, maybe only about 150 years ago. But right through here are stones that weigh in the 150-ton range, and there's a big enough one here to actually have been estimated at over 300 tons. What she's actually standing in front of is one tooth. Here are the rest of the teeth in a big jaw of a giant lion that the whole city of Cusco, Peru was built over or into. Here it's a little bit degraded with modern convention, but it's the mouth here with the teeth that you were just looking at, commemorating the lion above them. If you go to Bolivia, which is about a little bit over 100 miles to the east, you'll find a place called Puma Punku here. This is on top of a place called the Antiplano. It is the Altiplano. It is actually about 13,000 feet above sea level. That's more than 2 miles high. The archaeologists who look at this thing say it was built in 200 AD, which is pretty difficult to explain when you talk about megaliths here that weigh up to 440 tons that were